I know how you do it. Yeah.
Just come together.
And then maybe if you want to just step back to the left of the card. Yeah.
Good direction.
My man in here. Hey, Tommy, everything. Good to see you. Come on, let's go. Get over here, my man. This is my guy.
Just move over to the left of the card. I'm actually new have you.
All right. Awesome.
It's a free breakfast. Council seat. Irishman.
Yeah. I'll call you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you can access via email.
I will. I can
It's 7 p.m. Yeah, Thomas just coming in. He's going to host a little set.
Thanks.
Just remind me, okay?
I will.
What's going on, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Good seeing you. How's everything?
You know, let's get a photo.
Great.
Get in, Dad.
Good. Done.
Sweet.
You know, that's okay. We're doing this. 7:15. I mean, that's Irish time, right?
Yeah.
People bought tickets to want to go to a party, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
The Tiny's worried about the meeting.
That's at 8 p.m.
Oh, the Irish restaurant? Okay.
I'll talk to you.
Absolutely,
I'll
yeah.
talk to you.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Two for the giving it.
There too.
Yeah, it's our favorite event.
Yeah.
It's House by Video.
Yeah, we saw that. Oh, they're doing it. David's not here, like, I'm sure empowered. I show my liberal side. Look at this. Oh, Brooklyn boys.
There's one right.
Smelling it.
Solid.
Can't see the whole screen. Can't see. All right, well, this is great. Good evening. How are you? Hello. Welcome to CRAICFEST 27. 27 years. Wow. Started it when I was 12. Hey, coming to see some new faces, some familiar faces over the years. So I'm just going to get right into it. Just have a few people want to say a few words, but I do have some people I want to thank. There's some guests here from Northwell Health for our presenting sponsors. We'll give them a big round of applause, please. Yeah. Also, Screen Ireland and Culture Ireland were major supporters, and I just want to acknowledge them because, you know, that's what helps us out as a festival. That's what helps out the publicity and marketing and flying the filmmakers over and putting them up in the Fitzpatrick. So I'll give a big hand for that myself. Our opening night sponsors, and you already have to, do you work for the government? No?
Not yet. Not yet.
So our opening night sponsors, the Irish Consulate and the Immigrant Support Program, which helps pay for the cinema. And I want to give a huge thanks to our publicity and marketing manager, Michelle. She's here. Where are you? You shut up, Michelle. elevated the festival. That was our buzzword this year. Elevate. We did just that next hour. So I'd like to introduce Nick, who I've known a long time, and the Irish Consulate again has been a very big supporter of ours. So I want to acknowledge them. And, so thanks, Nick, and thanks, Irish Consulate. So Nick, come on up and say a few words.
I know we're waiting to start a movie and we're on Terrence time, so it's 7:15. I won't speak for long, but happy St. Patrick's season, you all. I think this is the official kickstart of what's been a very busy month. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Nick Quaid. I'm the cultural attaché with the Irish government based here in New York. And it's a great pleasure to stand here tonight and officially open the 27th CRAICFEST. It's great to see a full house, and especially like to extend my deepest thanks to New York City Council members who I see here, Keith, Shaker, others. Your support for the arts, particularly at this time, is really, really, really important, and we value the engagement that you sustain with Ireland. Thank you. Martin Barris and Michelle McCarthy for the festival's continued perseverance and direction throughout the year, and for ensuring that Irish arts, film, music, culture remains a permanent feature of this city. From compelling documentaries to extraordinary musical performances, CRAICFEST celebrates the richness of Irish culture with our New York City community. Over 27 years, it's become one of the premier cultural events in March, and has had many, many notable guests over the years. I'd like to thank our host here, the Angelica East Village, a true champion of independent film, and thank you for welcoming Irish filmmakers and stories to your screens, and for making this festival feel like a homecoming year after year. Tonight, we open with a film about a woman who truly needs no introduction, Mrs. Robinson, a name that carries with it a legacy of courage, conviction, and transformative leadership. It is impossible to overstate the impact that Mary Robinson has had, not only in Ireland, but across the world. As Ireland's first female president, she redefined the role, bringing a new voice to the presidency, one that spoke of inclusion, justice, and human dignity. She carried Ireland forward, lifting us onto the global stage in a way that was visionary and deeply personal to so many, myself included. Her work did not end at the ORIS, the Office of the Presidency. As a UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, as a member of the Elders, and now through her current work with Project Dandelion, she continues to be a force for change, reminding us all of the responsibility we bear in tackling the greatest challenges of our time, especially the crisis of climate change. Tonight, through Mrs. Robinson, we have the opportunity to reflect on her remarkable journey, and I'm glad that we'll get to hear from the producer, Cormac Hargaden, after the screening. And special thanks to Screen Ireland and Culture On for making all of this happen. This film is just the beginning. Over the coming days, CRAICFEST program includes gripping dramas, thought-provoking documentaries, and fresh perspectives that push the boundaries of Irish storytelling. So I hope you grabbed a brochure, and that we'll see you again over the weekend. It's a testament to Irish film, both at home and in the diaspora, that our stories continue to resonate so deeply with audiences around the world. They remind us of where we come from, who we are, but also where we are going. And in doing so, they strengthen the cultural ties between Ireland and the US, so important at this time. Ties that are not just historical, but alive and thriving in gatherings like this one. That is why I and the Consulate are delighted to support this festival year after year. If you'd like to hear more about what the events that we support, please sign up for my Greenlight newsletter or on Instagram, and I hope to see you all after the show tonight at the party. So thank you for being here, for supporting Irish film, and celebrating all of these voices that shape our shared story. Enjoy the festival.
What do you want to that? Next, one of the colleague book. He's awesome. So, we're gonna keep this going here. I want to introduce Dermot Smith, future council member in Queens. He's gonna say a few words. He's an old friend of ours. So please give him a warm up.
Thank you very much. 27 years of the CRAICFEST. Isn't that a great name? How many Irish know how to have some crack? We're going to have it in the next couple of days. So congratulations. So I'm not going to talk long. I know you're looking forward to the documentary that you're about to see. I just want to tell you a little bit about me. Remember, New York City politics used to have a lot of Irish in it. I grew up in a small town in South County, Dublin, called Rathcoole. Sits on the Wicklow border. Looked out my back garden, you could see the Dublin Mountains and the Wicklow Mountains right behind it, the Garden of Ireland. If you've never been to Wicklow, what they call the Garden of Ireland, I think it's like Cardinal Sin or something. You either go to confession or get on a plane and go see Wicklow. Anyway, so I came over here in 1988. I go back regularly. My dad is over there. He's going to be 94 next month. His health is finally declining, but up until a couple of months ago, he still went to his local pub, and it was 3 pints of Guinness every day. So he stopped doing that now, but I go back there a lot. And right now, I've been over here for 30-something years. I don't even remember. I came back in '88. So I've worked in education since 2000. And I've worked for the teachers union for the last 16 years. So I've worked in the New York City political space for 16 years. And I've decided now there's an open seat in my neighborhood. Elizabeth Crowley used to be the council member there several years ago. The seat is open. I'm going to run. I think it's very, very important that the Irish be represented in the city government and that our cultural institutions are so important and that we carry on supporting them, lifting them up and amplifying them like Terence does here. And all of you by being here. New York City, there's a huge part of New York City that is affected in a very positive way by the Irish culture that's here. And we need to continue that and make sure we support all of our Irish institutions. So I'm running for city council. If any of you live in Queens, please make sure you support my campaign. My website is simple. It's Dermot Smith, Smith spelled with a Y, DermotSmithNY.com. I'm going to be a strong advocate for the Irish community here in New York. I think we need to bring that back, and I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you. We need lots of supports out there, whether it's donations or whether it's coming out, door knocking for us. Let's put an Irishman back in New York City government. Thank you so much.
I mean, I have no doubt Queens are going to take it over. All right. Last but not least, Councilmember Shaker Krishna has been a huge supporter of us. Come on up and say a few
Oh,
words.
shake it.
Give it up for him. Program that we do. A lot of people know we do a crack session in spring, and we do a crack comedy fest. How many people here know Didro King? Right, a lot, right? Yeah. So thanks to him, so we were able to fly. Yeah, this is part of the Culture Immigrant Initiative, of the City of New York. To the council members, we were able to fly her over, and that's part of what the Crack Fest does. So it's important to know. So thank you for your support. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Councilmember Shaker Krishna. I'm representing Jackson Heights, Queens. Probably the first Indian American ever elected to New York City Council. So first Indian, but honorary Irish too. And there's a lot of positive connection there. But I'm so proud to be a sponsor and to support the Crack Fest through our Culture and Initiative too. I mean, Terence has been such a strong advocate, not only for Irish culture and making sure that we are celebrating Irish culture, but also about making sure it's part of the larger story of celebrating our immigrant communities and representing Jackson Heights. That's not only the birthplace of Queens Pride, but also just a neighborhood away. Every year we just have the St. Pat's for All parade too, which is both the most inclusive, LGBT-friendly St. Pat's parade, which my predecessor in the council and close mentor and friend, Danny Drum, was the founder of. And so for me, to be representing this district and supporting programs like the Crack Fest and working together is a way for us to really champion and celebrate our immigrant communities. And to do it, to also celebrate the overlapping culture and heritage between the Indian American communities and Indian culture and Irish culture. It's something so special to me and deeply personal too. So I'm always proud to be a supporter of Crack Fest, support Terrence's good work. And together to showcase what our immigrant communities from our Irish community in Woodside, Queens, across New York City, how they are part of the fabric of the larger story of New York. And you'll always count me as a supporter too, and I'm very, very happy to be here today. So thank you all so much.
Just one quick announcement. So lost. A lot of people ask me, you guys, the party is on East 9th Street, so it's a few blocks down. So enjoy the film. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you very much.
Such are the places where every man, woman, and child seeks equal justice, equal opportunity, equal dignity without discrimination. Unless these rights have meaning there, they have little meaning anywhere. to have what I called a kind of inner sense of justice from a very early stage. I was lucky enough, the bedroom in my home looked out on the River Moy. I remember spending a lot of time looking out this window. I would look out on the river from my bedroom and dream dreams. They were dreams. The women of Ireland, instead of rocking the cradle, rocked the system. Disastrous catastrophe. We need to restore what we are destroying. We're not going to move this agenda with statistics and science. We're going to... It's like confession.
For 3 decades, governments...
I'd had our 3 children. For the birth of our first grandchild, I had been told on the phone, it's a boy, and we're calling him Rory. And I rushed in.
Woman I have ever met. Once she decides that something is worth the fight, she will not take no for an answer.
The wonderful thing about Mary is that she knows to party as hard as she knows to work.
I do like that. I do like that.
She works unbelievably hard, but she's also a great laugh. I'm not sure anybody can keep up with her. She must be Irish.
Mary say is that she's a grandmother and that, you know, her fight for climate justice, it's for the children and the grandchildren around the world.
You know, I come from the part of the world.
Keep it going now, come on. Let's get into this. Come on down here. 5, 6, 7 years going into this documentary.
I know.
Welcome. So, normally with these Q&As, you can go a number of ways, but tell me the beginning, the genesis of the idea, because I mean, there's a lot to cover here, but this is a lot of the making of an amazing woman. So, where did it all start for you? How did you get involved in IFA? Tell us about, where it all started, the beginning of the project.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, before I do that, I just want to thank you guys for inviting us to CRAICFEST. It was very helpful. All the work Michelle did. Very warm welcome, very good vibe that you put on. So,
thank you.
And thanks to everyone for coming out to see them. I know it's not easy to get out to the theatre at the best of times, so really appreciate you coming out. About 2019, Terence, we approached Mary, and we had seen a film called RBG, which was out at the time, which was an American, I'm sure you're familiar with it, Supreme Court Justice. And I thought to myself that Ireland has a woman just like her who has been a real high achiever in legal circles, but she was also our Obama in terms of a transformative presidential winner of a presidential election. And so, having seen that film, I kind of began to think about the potential film about Mary as a calling card for the type of change that Ireland has gone through over the last 50 or 60 years. We got the copy with her and her close confidant, Bride Rosny, who the film is dedicated to, and then we started to put the pressure on. She was reluctant, but Bride actually put the squeeze on her, and eventually she opted into it. And there's a phrase at the top of the film, this isn't about you, Mary, and that's what Bride said to Mary, that actually Mary bought in eventually to the idea that if she made a film, it could be a calling card in like this attention economy that we have.
Right. That's a good point.
To try and inspire younger generations,
Uh-huh.
So that's where it started. Then 5 or 6 years later, exhausted and broken, we're finally here with a finished film.
Come on, you're not broken. You look good. But since Eva was supposed to be here, she had some change in work. So tell us a little about, because I've had conversations with Irish women I know here in New York about the empowerment. And there's a lot of women here. So, and I know they'd be interested to know and I didn't know this as an Irish American, but the empowerment that she gave young women in Ireland. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because, you know, it's important to know, like, especially for myself as an American, the perspective was like, I remember meeting her, like, it's just an amazing woman. So, I mean, can you talk a little bit about, like, the influence that she had on young women in Ireland? I think was amazing, yeah?
Yeah, and not just young women. I was a 17-year-old doing finishing high school in 1990, and you know, I remember the Ireland before and I remember the Ireland after. A lot of people would say a lot had to do with the Irish soccer team winning in the Italian was in '94, but I couldn't.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
And River Dance and Flatty and all the rest.
Sure.
But something very significant happened, I think, in the early 90s to Ireland. I think the film captures the Ireland that was there before.
Yeah,
and
it does. That's a good point.
You know, some of the social values. But I do think that the presidential election in 1990 was a very significant symbolic tipping point where I think we began to realise that there was a slightly different version of Ireland, or a slightly different way in which we could meet the world. And I think Mary's election was a big part of that. And it very much was Mná na hÉireann that voted her in. And for years afterwards, when Mary made appearances, people used to come up, women of Ireland used to come up to Mary and shake her hand and whisper in her ear, I voted for you, but keep it to yourself. And they glance around to check if the husband was listening, you know. So a lot of the Irish women voted for Mary, I think, did so quietly in 1990, which is a kind of reminder of
the science.
It
was different, yeah. So, and it's a shame she couldn't be here today because the schedule changed, but how would she perceive Ireland now, I would think, you know, because you got to know her personally, like, what would be her take now? Like, that's what I would ask her, like, how would she see Ireland now, like, socially, politically, culturally, you know?
I think she's quite proud of Ireland now.
Yeah.
I think she's proud of the generation that came behind her and some of the changes that have happened since in terms of, you know, making Ireland a kinder place and a more inclusive place for a lot of people that maybe felt it wasn't a particularly kind place in the 1960s and 1970s in some ways. So she loves it. She's moved back to Ireland. She lived in New York for the better part of 10 years during the UN. So this city shaped her as much as anywhere else. And she says it there at the end, boss and Éireann. I think that's important to her because I think we all kind of come home to our roots in the end. And she certainly has. She settled back into Ireland. She's a grandmother. She's not far away from being a great grandmother. But she's going as hard as ever. You know, like well, our best days are behind us. But as a crew, we were chasing around this 8-year-old, and we couldn't keep up with her. She's going as quickly as she ever went. Yeah. And I think she's very positive about Ireland, and she's kind of that's the extraordinary thing about her, because whether it's
optimistic.
Yeah, if you look at human rights, you look at all of those things. She just still views the world through a prism of optimism, and I think that's kind of the most inspirational thing about her, that she's slightly unbreakable, you know.
Absolutely. So, from a producing standpoint, from an editing, I know you think about this, but so were there things that changed along the way when you saw, like, well, this is a different story now, because she's a very dynamic person. Yeah. So were there things that, you know, the audience would know, like, you saw, oh, this is things that we didn't see about her, like, that make the story more interesting? Did you see things in the editing? Because as a documentary, it evolves along the way. Yeah. So were the things that you noticed, well, this is what makes it more interesting? And
well, I think I think two things unlocked the side of Mary that we didn't know, and I think the audience didn't know. Right. First thing was when she landed in one day and she handed it over. They weren't even DVDs; they were CD-ROMs, if you remember what they were. And she just said, "There's some sort of a film in that. See if you can play it." And it was like her father had a cine camera. And all of that extraordinary family archive that I think...
It's great footage.
Yeah, it's fantastic footage. And like he was rolling from the time she came home from the hospital all the way. And, you know, as a filmmaker, that's like Santa Claus coming.
Gems. Yeah, they're gems. Yeah. Because that's what I'm asking you, right? Yeah, sure.
And I think that allowed us, I think, to, you know, from the very start, to unlock that archive. I think we got very lucky. And her own father really should have the director of photography credit, because once we had it, we were going to use it. We milked it for all it was worth. But then I think Nick's participation was a nice element as well. Because Mary has spent her life in front of cameras, but she spent her life in front of cameras in a very presidential mode, and some people who know the public Mary would have thought that at times she was very restrained. But I think when you see Aubrey, her son, and you see Nick talking about romance and their first kiss, which she participated reluctantly. But I think
There's an innocence to that.
yeah,
That's
but
great. I enjoy that. Yeah.
It's kind of people often talk about the first lady and the woman behind the man in power, and I think it was nice to see that Nick actually was there all the way, as he would say, walking 3 paces behind Julia. He always had to be just out of shot.
Sure. Well, I have to say, before we get into Q&A, my relatives are from Mayo. When I met Mary years ago, she goes, "You're from Mayo?" I said, "My grandfather's from Mayo now." So is anybody here from Mayo? Anybody? Look, we got one. Very good.
My grandparents.
There we go, my grandparents. Good stuff. I had to get that shout out. But I'm going to open it up with some questions now. So does everybody have any questions for Cormac? This gentleman right here.
Mrs. Robinson met with Jerry Adams. Did she ever have an opportunity while president to meet, or was she allowed to meet with any of the unionist people at that time?
That's one question.
Yeah, she did actually. She was, and she was very much criticised for being for her outreaches to both sides of the community. So yeah, she did have delegates from the unionist community down to Ors and Uachtaráin, down to the presidential house. And actually, if you reverse back 5 or 6 years, the seeds of the peace process were in an Anglo-Irish agreement from a previous government in 1985. And Mary felt so strongly about that on the side of the unionist community that she actually stepped back from parliamentary politics as a point of principle. So if anything, she was seen as being pro-unionist in the mid and late 80s. And then in 1990, I think the fact that she did reach out to literally reach out her hand to Jerry Adams, was, I think, an under-recognised part of the peace process. It was before there was a ceasefire. It was immediately before there was a visa issued for Jerry Adams to come to America. And I think, I think she was inspired really by Nelson Mandela, who always talks about, talking to your enemies rather than your friends, that being the important part of nation building and peace building.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think I saw somebody else. Yeah, right there.
Congratulations on the movie. In relation to Princess Latifah, did she ever have the opportunity, or did she say to make contact with her after the whole debacle?
No, I don't think so. I think it's still. I think you sense from the scene that she's personally wounded from it all, and it's kind of just hanging there. But I think for Aoife, the director, was just really important, and kind of a red line for her to talk about what's perceived to be her mistakes, and from her point of view, what her regrets are. And to Mary's credit, I think she would have objected if some of those scenes weren't included, like Latifah. And I think she's very robust in terms of the intellectual rigor that she applies to these things. And she was very keen that we talked about the Latifah incident. But it's kind of hanging there. It's very unresolved, both in terms of the politics of it, but the personal side of it as well.
One more question. Hey, right there.
I was 9 years old when Mary Robinson was elected, and I think in my growing up as an Irish American, knowing about her, there was an enormous sense of pride that she had achieved this. But I think my sense was that she also transformed the office into something that is globally recognized. Do you find that as well, or that her work and traveling abroad, the way that other presidents hadn't really just made things that put Ireland on a different stage?
That's a really good question.
You could talk about that for a while.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
100%.
That's a really good question. Yeah, you're right, that's a good question.
I'm actually filming a documentary at the moment, and filming in New York over the next few days about another Irish president, David De Valera. And David De Valera went into the same house that Mary went into, and he moved out of it 6 months before he died as a very old blind man. So there was that perception in Ireland that this was a place that people retired to, you know. And then Mary came in and energised the office, and as a constitutional lawyer, she looked at the potential of what she could do with it. And I think she understood the power of symbols. You know, you can see the light in the window. She understood that actually small gestures mean a lot, language means a lot. You know, kind of the welcome mat means an awful lot. And she did, like, there's a lot that didn't get into the film. There's a lot that got into the film, and I appreciate all your patience for sitting through it and the opening night. But I think she told a story about inviting LGBT community to the Oris as one of the early the early hostings that she did in Oris on Uachtaráin. And at the end of the lunch, they all came to take a group photograph. And at least a third of the group stepped out the photograph and hid in behind the pillar because they weren't able to live their life openly at that time in Ireland. So she really transformed, like in small little acts like that, small little acts of welcome. I think inch by inch they were very meaningful, you know.
Yeah, and I think it still resonates today, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a big ripple effect from her, like 20, 25 years now.
Yeah, well, there's
in a good way. Yeah,
there's a whole set of people who were like Aoife Kelleher, our director, speaks about remembering Mary's election. She would have been a very similar age, 8 or 9 or 10, and there was a little girl in the film who was asked, "Well, who's Mary Robinson?" And she just said, "Well, she's the president." and you know, you can't read if you can't see it. So I think there's a whole generation that looked at a female president occupying the Oris, and they're the same generation that have kicked on, I think, in terms of, you know, social values and norms in Ireland.
I got time for one more question. Yeah, sure.
So these films, especially now, are really, really important. Are you having any luck getting distribution? And how's that going?
Yeah, it's going really well. We haven't taken a traditional route, so we released theatrically in Ireland, UK, and we did a great box office on that, and we have a French sales agent working on the European side of things, and we have an impact campaign through Mary's Project Dandelion, which is kind of a non-traditional route through you know, a streaming platform, and well, we're also very interested in particularly in North America, trying to get it in front of more eyeballs as much as we can. You know, so it's a really challenging time for filmmakers, and you have, I mean, films like Housewife of the Year, just from a documentary point of view, which is my ballpark. It's a kind of a golden age in some ways. There's a Housewife of the Year and lots of other films like The Flats and the new
that's a good film.
Yeah, a new film about Ed O'Brien. They're all great films, and you know, we're all out there in a kind of a difficult marketplace trying to get in front of audiences. But I'd be very hopeful that, like, I think hopefully a lot of those things will fall into place over the next couple of years, you know, in terms of a slightly new paradigm for distribution, because this is an absolutely gorgeous venue.
That's nice. Right?
Yeah, you walk into it, and these, you know, there's nothing quite like watching a film in the company of other people. It's an entirely different experience from watching on your phone at Subway or watching at home in a streamer. You know, so I think it's really important that somehow we figure out a way that exhibitors and theatres and people like Terence to make it happen. You know, that they're supported, and it's brilliant to see what you're doing here.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. But thank you. Thanks for letting me show your work tonight. A few blocks away. So thank you very much, and we'll see you at Solus in a little bit. Thank you.
Can I get a link of you first? Absolutely. Show it to someone. Absolutely. Is that okay?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think I have your details.
Yeah. So when you get a second,
if I make it for breakfast in the morning, I will.
Let me know, and if you don't,
Yeah,
and just give me a heads up.